the areas of the body, all the organs, all the tissues, and gives off its oxygen and takes back the carbon dioxide and other things which are now toxic for the body, and they go back along the deoxygenated pathway, and it is that same force which was generated earlier which continues to push them back into the blood. And so the heart is very important. It is a very muscular organ, and it lies on the left side of the chest. As I mentioned, it pushes the blood everywhere, and it is a very important part of the body, and the heart itself consists of 3 major layers. The first is the outer tough fibrous or pericardium layer that forms a bag-like structure around the heart, and it contains a fluid called the pericardial fluid, which acts as a shock absorber also to prevent any shocks. The middle layer is the myocardium layer, and it is highly muscular, and it is the contractile region of the heart. The innermost layer is not that strongly developed. It's not as strong as the thick as the myocardium, and it is called the endocardium. Now we will I'll show you the internal structure of the heart by first showing you that the heart is made up of 4 chambers. There are 2 atria and there are 2 ventricles. The walls of the atria are thin, and the atrial chambers act as a reservoir for filling of blood, which is then pushed into the ventricles, and the ventricles then push the blood forward. So the ventricles are more muscular than the atria. That is why the ventricles are thick-walled. The wall surrounding the ventricle is thicker, and the wall surrounding the left ventricle is thicker, because it is that ventricle which pumps the blood to, and that is the oxygenated blood to all parts of the body, and the left ventricle pushes the blood to the pulmonary artery. Now this is the heart, if you can see the structure of the heart, and the right atrium and the left atrium are not as muscular, and the right, it's an inverse, because this is a mirror image more or less. So the right atrium would be the one which gets the deoxygenated blood, and it receives the blood, and so the force in this, the blood force in this is not that much, and it has to pump the blood into the pulmonary artery for oxygenating it. So that means that this is not as muscular as the left ventricle. Once the pulmonary vein artery goes to the lungs, the blood gets oxygenated, and then it comes back. So though it is called this is called a pulmonary artery, in effect it does not carry most of the arteries. All the other arteries carry oxygenated blood, but this is the only artery which has deoxygenated blood. And similarly, the pulmonary vein, which comes back from the heart with oxygenated blood, carries oxygenated blood. This is the only vessel in the body which, though a vein, carries oxygenated blood. So this is the structure of the heart, and you can see the valves which prevent the backflow of blood once it's gone from the atrium to the ventricle, and similarly it prevents the backflow once the blood goes from the atrium to the pulmonary artery. In the same manner, once the blood is received into the atrium, this is the left atrium, this is the oxygenated blood. Once it is received, it goes into the left ventricle, and these prevent the backflow. So the blood flows only in one direction, and when this contracts, when the ventricle contracts and the blood is to go into the aorta, this valve prevents the backflow. So these valves prevent backflows. So the circulatory system, so the blood carries all the nutrients, gases and waste material through the body, and this is the basic function of the circulatory system. Now let us talk about, I have talked about the veins and arteries, that the veins carry the deoxygenated blood except for the pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. Similarly, all the arteries carry oxygenated blood except for the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation. So this is an artery. You will notice that the artery is thicker walled. This is because it pumps blood under great pressure, and the veins are thinner, and this is once the blood is flowing back into the heart, the pressure has decreased, so it does not need a lot of musculature. So this is, the muscles are thinner and the blood flows more slowly. That is why when you have to get an intravenous injection, the injection is given into the veins, never into the arteries, because it is flowing under tremendous pressure. And now you can see how there is a junction. Once, how is the exchange, how does the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood meet? The oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood meet by the means of capillaries, because these arteries break into smaller vessels. Similarly, the veins break into smaller vessels, and these break into extremely small. These keep dividing and subdividing till you obtain capillaries, and these capillaries of both the veins and the artery join together, and that is where the exchange of most of the oxygen takes place, as well as the food material. So you can see the structure, the 3 layers you can see, as well as the valve, which prevents backflow of blood. So now the functions of the arteries, are they are vessels that carry blood from heart to different parts of the organs and body. They always carry oxygenated blood. Now you can see a structure of an internal structure of the artery. This is the cut wall of an artery. It has 3 distinct layers, which are also called tunics. The tunica intima, which is composed of simple squamous epithelium called endothelium, and this is where most of the plaques will be found. Then this is the tunica media, which is the layer of muscle fibers, and it is thick. And then the tunica adventitia, this is fibrous, and this is protective for the vessel. I would like to describe the circulation of blood. Both the atria will contract together and both the ventricles will contract together. But for explaining this, I have focused first on the right atrium and the right ventricle. This is the region which is getting the deoxygenated blood, and the right ventricles of the heart receive it. First, what happens is that the blood from all over the body is received in the right atrium. This is received by 2 veins, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. The superior means it is coming from the heart. Everything above is called from the brain. The inferior vena cava brings the blood, deoxygenated blood, from the lower part of the body. This enters into the right atrium. Once it gets into the right atrium contracts. That contraction is let me mention, I will be talking about it later if I have the time, that a heart is, has a rhythmic contraction. It is an autorhythmic contraction, and this contraction is within the heart tissues, and it causes the heart to contract and relax. So once the blood gets into the atrium, both the atrium, the right and left, will contract together, but I am talking about one at a time for you to understand. So the right atrium, once it contracts, it pushes the blood into the right ventricle of the heart. The heart has 2 important functions. The autorhythmic cells are present in it. They act as pacemaker. They set the rhythm of the entire heart, and they form the conducting system, the route for propagating action potential throughout the heart muscle. The conduction system ensures that the heart chambers, namely the atria and ventricles, become stimulated to act as effective pumps. So what happens is that in the atria, in the right atria, you have the sinoatrial valve, and this sinoatrial valve is located in the right atrial wall, just below the opening of the superior vena cava, and it has a rhythm which contracts, and this, when it contracts, it pushes its signal or action potential, moves from both the atria to the ventricle. This is the system that you have the sinoatrial valve, which causes both the atrium to contract, and then this causes a signal which causes the atroventral valve, which is located between the 2 atria, and this causes downward conduction signal towards both of the heart sides, and the ventricles contract. This signal occurs only at between the atria and the ventricles, this AV signal, otherwise the heart is insulated. So this is the electrical conduction system of the heart, as you can see. And you can see that this is how the signal goes. This is the valve, the sinoatrial node. The signal goes here and it goes here, and so both the atrium contract and it causes excitation in this area, and this area goes down further. The conduction goes down further towards both. There are two bundles called the right and left bundle of his, and this causes the heart to contract, the ventricles to contract. This is the basic electrical conduction system of the heart.
Thank you, Dr. Bano.